Welcome to Southwest Desert, where adventure meets the arid beauty of the American Southwest. Join us as we explore the rugged landscapes, uncover hidden historical gems, and dive deep into the rich legends and culture of this iconic region. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on our latest desert adventures. Please leave a like or comment. This is very helpful. Let's journey together into the heart of the Southwest Desert. Deep in the scorching wasteland between California's Cargo Muchacho Mountains and the Colorado River, two bullet-riddled kerosene cans may still lie hidden beneath decades of shifting sand. These rusted containers hold the key to one of the American Southwest's most tantalizing lost treasure stories, a tale that transformed one man from potential millionaire to obsessed treasure hunter with a single act of explosive rage. This is the story of Big Jim Sullivan, whose moment of fury in the desert heat cost him a king's ransom and launched more than a century of treasure hunting that continues to this day. Between 1892 and 1896, during California's gold rush fever, a rough mining camp called Hedges was booming in the remote Cargo Muchacho Mountains. The camp's Golden Cross mines would eventually yield over $3 million in gold, but Hedges was no place for the faint of heart. At the dangerous Stingaree Saloon, where knives flashed as often as gold nuggets, Billy Horan employed Jim Sullivan as floor manager and chief bouncer. The massive Irishman's physical presence and fearless demeanor made him perfect for handling armed, drunken customers who had lost too much money at the gaming tables. Despite his intimidating appearance, Sullivan chose his friends without regard to racial prejudices. Among his closest companions was a Christianized Mission Indian who worked as a cleanup man at the Stingaree. This Native American had lived for years on the Yuma Reservation along the Colorado River and greatly admired the large gold crucifix Sullivan wore on his watch chain. Eventually, the Indian worked up courage to ask Sullivan for the crucifix as a gift. The Irishman wasn't parting with his prized possession, but made a counter-proposal that would change both their lives forever. He told the Indian that if he could bring him gold, he would craft an identical crucifix. This wasn't simple generosity. Sullivan knew the persistent Southwest legend that Yuma Indians possessed knowledge of rich gold deposits, but their spiritual beliefs absolutely forbade revealing these locations to white men. The Indian's response followed the expected pattern. He acknowledged knowing where vast gold quantities existed, but explained that, as a Native American, he could never take any. The spiritual prohibitions were too strong. Sullivan proposed a solution. The Indian wouldn't take any gold personally. He would simply show Sullivan the location, and the Irishman would do all extraction. If there was a curse, Sullivan argued, it would fall upon him alone. After considerable persuasion, the Indian agreed to guide Sullivan to a gold deposit somewhere in the vast desert. Some experts later theorized Sullivan succeeded only because his friend wasn't actually Yuma, but an outsider who had married into their community. By the time they finalized plans, brutal summer heat had arrived. Any experienced prospector would have postponed such an expedition, but Sullivan was neither desert veteran nor professional miner. His inexperience would prove fatal to his fortune. When Sullivan was ready, Billy Horan was traveling east toward his blacksmith shop along the Yuma Freight Road. The Irishman and his guide hitched a ride in Horan's buckboard, bringing supplies loaded on a large burro. At the shop, Horan went to work while the gold seekers continued eastward into desert wilderness. From Horan's shop, it was 15 miles to the Colorado River across wild terrain, wide washes, and deep canyons giving way to chaotic volcanic buttes and hills. Somewhere in this desolate region, following the Indians' directions, Sullivan established camp, probably east of the future Picacho Road near a formation called Pebble Mountain. From their campsite, The Indian led Sullivan to the promised deposit. What the Irishman saw exceeded his wildest dreams, a ledge containing rich ore where native gold was clearly visible. Sullivan knocked off samples, already calculating his approaching fortune. Their entire water supply was contained in two 5-gallon kerosene cans packed on their burro, plus personal canteens consumed during the journey. Returning from the Golden Ledge, Sullivan decided to refresh himself from one of the precious containers. The moment liquid touched his lips, he realized something was terribly wrong. The water tasted strongly of kerosene, contaminated by residue from previous use. The second can was equally unpalatable. Whether from heat, thirst, crushing disappointment, or explosive Irish temper, Sullivan's reaction was catastrophic. In rage, he drew his revolver and systematically shot holes in both containers, watching helplessly as their entire water supply poured onto the scorching desert floor and vanished into thirsty earth. With water gone and heat intensifying, Sullivan and his companion faced desperate circumstances. Their only hope lay in retracing their route to Horan's blacksmith shop, 15 miles across unforgiving terrain. The journey became a nightmare of heat, thirst, and physical torment. Sullivan had made another crucial error, wearing low-cut dress shoes instead of proper boots. As they struggled across rocky, thorny landscape, his footwear disintegrated, leaving his feet cut, swollen, and blistered. 3 days after departure, they reached Horan's shop. Sullivan was barely conscious, riding the burro because he couldn't walk. Despite his condition, he had retained ore samples from the Golden Ledge. Horan loaded the suffering Irishman into his buckboard and transported him to Hedges, where the camp's assayer analyzed the precious rocks. Results were extraordinary, ore assaying over $1,000 per ton in gold. Samples were 2 types, yellowish red with limonite and chocolate brown with hematite. Neither resembled ore typically found in the area. Sullivan needed medical care beyond Hedges' capabilities. After hospital recovery, he returned the following winter with one objective: finding his Indian guide. But the Native American had vanished completely. Sullivan searched the camp and Yuma reservation, finding no trace. The Indian may have been punished by his tribal community for violating sacred taboos, or decided his safety required leaving permanently. Sullivan found himself knowing fortune lay somewhere in the desert, but unable to relocate it without his guide. For those believing in Indian curses, it seemed Sullivan had indeed taken supernatural consequences upon himself. Uncertain of exact location and lacking his guide, Sullivan attempted retracing their route from Horan's shop. This first search led him across the future Picacho Road near Pebble Mountain into broken volcanic landscape. He searched until supplies ran out, then hired Horan for fresh supplies and water. Sullivan established camp at Pebble Mountain's southern end and spent an entire winter unsuccessfully searching. When spring arrived, he admitted defeat and left. He returned in winter 1908, backed by George Wingfield, who had made fortunes in Nevada's goldfield boom. Again establishing base camp south of Pebble Mountain, he hired Horan to supply water. Despite adequate resources and months in the field, Sullivan couldn't recognize landmarks from his original journey. His final search occurred in 1920, when he had retired to Bell, California. Financed by Long Beach bankers who accompanied him, Sullivan again sought Horan's assistance. By then elderly, Sullivan had become so confused he no longer knew which direction to search. The disgusted bankers quickly departed, followed by Sullivan, who never returned. The area where Sullivan's ledge must exist is limited, desert between Picacho Road and Colorado River. Some theorize the Hess mine near Imperial Dam was Sullivan's discovery, but experienced prospectors disputed this, arguing Hess ore wasn't rich enough. Why couldn't Sullivan relocate his discovery? He was neither experienced desert traveler nor skilled prospector. During his original journey, he followed his guide rather than noting landmarks. On the return trip, he suffered heat exhaustion, hardly able to memorize their route. Since Sullivan's time, numerous experienced prospectors have searched unsuccessfully. The terrain between mountains and river is extraordinarily rough and rugged, covering vast expanses that overwhelm systematic searchers. Today, more than a century later, treasure hunters continue searching for Sullivan's Ledge. One crucial clue remains: those bullet-riddled kerosene cans Sullivan shot in fury. Metal corrodes slowly in dry desert climate, and these containers might still exist somewhere in the lonely landscape. Join my Patreon community and discover my art print products on my website in the links provided in my description and link above. Also, if you would like a particular image from my videos, give the timestamp for image, and I will upload it to my website and Patreon. Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman Alan for another Southwest Gold story. Check out my large catalog of Southwest videos and playlists on historical tales, legends, lost gold stories, and adult bedtime stories. If you like a certain image from my videos, tell me in comments and give timestamp. Happy trails! Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.